do it.
I don't think that's right. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, anytime you're ready, Gary, we can just go, hang on.
Okay, calling the May 5th, 2021 meeting to order. Do we have a roll call?
I actually have it in on the webinar. I can see who's here. So
We've got everybody but David, right?
Right. Yep,
Okay.
everybody's here except for David Noyes.
Okay, perfect. Then we might as well just go ahead with oral communications 1. This is the time when members of the audience may address the board. You're limited to 2 minutes per individual. Maximum time for this oral communication period is 10 minutes. We will have another longer oral communication period at the end of the meeting, in which you can speak for 5 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes at that time. Is there anybody who would like to speak now?
So if anybody would like to speak, please raise your hand. And I believe that you can raise your hand by pressing a button at the bottom. Lisa, can you remind us how they do that? Because I don't see it.
It is up under more. So if you go up to the little 3 dots there and it says more, underneath that is raise your hand.
Okay.
We're at
It
the
must
bottom
not
of
show
your
up for me
screen.
as the host. So hopefully you can all see that. I don't see any hands raised.
Perfect. Okay, we'll move on. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from last month's meeting.
So I emailed you all the packet. Did you all get it and review it? Okay.
Yep.
I did. I
Move
make a
for
motion
approval.
to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, so Bob motion, Andy second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. At this time, we'll move on to reports. We'll have the fiscal report for fiscal year 2021.
So before I talk about the financials, I'm just gonna tell you, Gary, I've got the slides a little bit out of order. So I'm just reordering the agenda just a little bit for flow because I'm gonna have Pat Willis do his report last, and then we'll just go right into county fair. So that, because I'm sure that really Pat's presentation is really just part of county fair anyway. So we'll do approval of financials, and then we'll do a FAQ update, and then we'll go into 4-H. So
Okay.
You've all got the financials in the packet. It should not surprise any of you. We've got no income other than a little bit of TLT. Transient lodging tax, while it's still down, it is actually starting to trend up. I was speaking with county finance today, and things are trending a little bit upward. So things are looking up for TLT, so that's good news. And then again, very few expenditures, as we just really have staff expenditures at this time. And
Any
that's
questions on the financials? See no questions on the financials. Is that a question, Jerry? I see your hand go up.
No, it's not necessarily about the financials, but Leah, we've talked about the legislation that is, and I'm trying to get to the financials real quick right now, that is on the topic of Department of Ag funds.
Mm-hmm.
Has that bill moved?
So there was a hearing just recently, and I have not received any more update from our legislative advocacy committee with the Oregon Fairs Association. So I haven't heard anything. I know that they had that hearing, and then there was going to be some other committees that it passed through on its way to whatever the next steps are. And I have heard nothing, although I do have a meeting tomorrow morning with the Oregon Fairs Association to hear about any updates. So once I get more information, I will certainly send that out to you, but I haven't heard anything.
So I'm assuming everybody on the board understands what that's all about.
Joy
If
wasn't
not-
at the last meeting, so I'll just do a quick update for
Yeah,
Joyce.
why don't you do that?
And just as a reminder, so at the state level, we get what I call fair funding. Every fair in the state of Oregon currently gets $53,000 for fair funding from the state to produce their county fairs and things like that. It comes from Department of Ag via lottery dollars that goes to the Department of Ag, and then Department of Ag comes to county fairs. There is a cap currently on the amount of money that we get, which is why it's always exactly $53,000 and some change, because it's this cap. Well, the bill that is moving forward is removing that cap altogether. So there would be no cap on our funding. We would get a straight percentage, whatever comes in, we get a percentage of that. And it is estimated that we would get a little over $200,000 a year if that bill moves forward. So that would be great news for the county fair and allow us to be less dependent on transient lodging tax. And I mean, everybody's keeping their fingers crossed. Our government affairs team with Washington County submitted testimony on our behalf. Erin Doyle supports the fairgrounds from a government affairs standpoint, and she has been keeping up. Her and Jajit in government affairs have been keeping up on all of these fair bills, and they are submitting testimony on your behalf. So they're doing a great job.
Thank you, Leah.
Mhm.
Okay, any further questions on the financials? Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved. This is
second,
Andy.
Bob, second,
Right on. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
Okay, financials are approved. I see the slide, Leah. I will follow the slide.
Thank you.
Education fund update, Bob.
So let's see, we just had an FAC meeting last week. Andy and Bill were both there. Do one of you want to give an update? Andy?
Well, let's see. There's so much. Bill, do you want to do it? If not, there was so much that went on that I'm trying to remember everything. A lot of it had to do with the event center and where we were there. You're actually doing shows. You've done 2 shows now, Leah, I believe.
Yes,
And,
we've done 2 fairs,
yep.
2 events in the new event center.
Other than that, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's important that the Fair Board know how those 2 events went, since they were the first that we've done. Can you go ahead? Why don't you remind me of what
Okay.
they did? I remember they were talking about a budget for the maintenance of the fairgrounds.
Right, so really the Fairgrounds Advisory Committee, it was the first time they'd had a meeting in a very long time. So we had a couple new members attend. Andy stepped in for Gary, and Bill Ganger was there as well. And we talked about the opening of the event center. Our first 2 events have occurred now in the event center, and that was the Pacific Northwest Reptile Expo, which was highly successful. The promoter of that show contacted us today, and he wants to book 2 shows a year, every year, forever, he said. It was a very highly successful. Thousands of people came to that show, and mostly compliant. We only had to evict 2 people for not wearing masks. It was a nice group. And then last weekend was the Collectors West Gun and Knife Show. And that was I was a little bit worried about that event, but it went very, very well. And we didn't have any issues, and no evictions. And it was actually a fairly small crowd. We never had more than 250 people in the building at any one time. They didn't rent the whole expo hall. They rented half of it. So again, a very nice, successful show. And that promoter is also booking shows into the future with us. So very successful, very happy customers. So that's great news. We're very excited that after, I've worked for the county for 20 years. I've been waiting for this building for 20 years, and then I couldn't open it because of COVID. So Lisa and myself and Albert and our staff have been waiting for this building for a long time. So thank you, Washington County, for making that project happen. And then we did have the Fairgrounds Advisory Committee give their approval on our maintenance plan for this year. With our memorandum of understanding with the Board of Commissioners, we do submit a maintenance plan yearly to the county as part of our budget process. And this year, I did budget $100,000, or is that right? $100,000 in our budget for unexpected large maintenance projects that may occur. But other than that, I'm not planning on any major initiatives. We will still obviously maintain the facility, fix gutters and mow and do all those regular routine maintenance, but we don't have any large outstanding big projects that we are putting forward this year. And the reason is Washington County Facilities is embarking on a strategic facilities plan. It's going to take a year, and they're going to be rolling the fairgrounds into that process. And then at the end, they're going to develop a master plan and roll the fairgrounds master plan into that process. So that's why we're not planning any major initiatives from a maintenance standpoint at this time. And other than that,
So
that was
yeah.
pretty much it.
Yeah, so basically it's a status quo budget
Right.
that just maintains what we have, but no big plans to put up anything new until funding has been identified.
Correct. And that's it.
Okay, that was a fact. What about the education fund update? as a
Sorry,
slight,
I jumped the gun. I'll let Bob or you give a ed fund update.
Ron, anything?
Yeah, this Bob, we have another meeting scheduled later this month. In our first meeting where we got Pat put on the board and got enough people to vote, had a quorum. We don't have a lot of money, but we're open to donate what we can to help the 4-H kids and FFA when we understand what the need is. So we're just kind of status quo there.
Okay, great.
Okay, 4-H update.
And Pat's got slides this time.
We got
Wow.
slides, yes. And I see some of you might be on phones, so I'll read this too, so you can see that, or hear it. You get to listen to my voice more that way too.
It's okay, Pat. I can read it.
Well, come on now. Come
I
on.
don't think he's driving. I
It's
think he's
not
just
that-
sitting.
This is very
Yeah,
exciting.
it's not that small.
Okay. Yeah, this is as of today, actually. And just so you know, I think I mentioned this last time, but the Oregon Health Authority considers 4-H an enrichment program. So there's a set of categories we have to follow for that. And that's all coordinated through OSU. I think I sent Leah the OHA guidelines. The new one just came out April 23rd. And now we're expecting, well, everything's changing all the time, basically. So this is what we know now, all this, but we have a series of safety guidelines that we're required to follow. That's whether you're at low risk, moderate, extreme, or high or extreme. It doesn't matter, but these are the criteria we have to follow. And this doesn't look like it's going to change at all, but all our programs need to be pre-approved for any kind of in-person event. And even our clubs, when they get together, they send in a pre-approval form to make sure they're doing it the right way. They understand the risks and all those type of things. So anything we do at the fairgrounds we'll have to go through that too. Face coverage will be required for youth and adults. Social distancing, 6 feet. Hand sanitizing, hand washing stations, garbage, all those type of things for both youth and adults, for all of our kids and families. Youth and adult health checks when they come into the fairgrounds. We'll have to make sure that's set up, and the typical things that someone asks you when you go get your teeth cleaned, that type of thing. And we have to do tracking and tracing forms for all participants, youth, adults, judges, for every group that comes in. We keep those, I think, for 4 weeks. And so we have a way of following through if someone is to get sick or to be able to transfer that along. So those are the criteria for us to actually do anything right now. So, oh, very good, Leah, very good. I can see Leah's listening to me, so that's good. So, so this is what we know now. I say that a lot because right now, Washington County is in high, I guess. It was going to go to extreme, but our governor keeps changing things. So we just do the best we can. But so for programs at the fairgrounds during fair or even not during fair, we have to adhere to COVID occupancy limits, whatever is set for the fairgrounds. For us, we can't exceed 20 youth and 2 adults together, or 50% occupancy in kind of one of our standards there. For us, only exhibitors and immediate family members or approved volunteers can be part of the program, be there helping out, that type of thing. And then no outside visitors may enter the program area for any reason, really, except for emergency purposes. And that even, the way it is right now, it includes visitors, you have to be essential, safe, has to be an essential process for an outside person to enter, like a show ring, wherever we're at out there. And in all the statements we have, we always have to share this: in-person and on-site activities must be critical or time sensitive and represent a low risk. So when we go back up to the tracking and tracing, we have to be able to make sure our kids are only working with their group, say in a show ring, so we can't have any of the public there. They can be at a distance watching. So we'll have to have some kind of fences or something to keep the public at bay, and whatever that means. So they can't, and I know the public always wants to come in and say, oh, let's go pet the goat, that type of thing, or talk, we won't be able to do that. They have to be farther away. So we can work with Leah and Albert, whatever that means. We've talked about some of that already, you know, and that's even entrances too. So as the general public will need to stay away from the entrances where we will be using. We've talked about that too with Leah and what that means and how to do that. That tracking and tracing thing is really critical for OHA and us right now. So, and any questions about these things yet?
Yeah. Let's see. Did I mute you? Okay, there I'm on. Go back to the other slide. I had a question about the first one. What was the first bullet point on the pre-approval by OSU?
Yeah.
Who makes that determination? Do you represent OSU, or who makes that determination?
Our regional director is in charge of Washington, Multnomah, and Clackamas County. So Angela does that. She's responsible for this area, and that it's not just her decision, but it's also goes to campus too. There's a risk management component too. So everyone's communicating, but ultimately it's Angela.
Okay, so if we developed a program and it appeared to look like it would meet all of the criteria, would there be one key person that could make that judgment call? It's a go or no go?
Well, it kind of aren't most decisions that way, I guess, in society.
Well,
one person that decides, but it is a collaborative effort. And then the goal isn't set up to not do things. The goal is to try to do what we can to fit, but still under the guidance of OHA.
No, absolutely. But what I would worry about is that somebody says, yes, it's okay to do it. And then you move forward with the program and somebody else comes in and says, no, you can't do it. Who actually gets to make that call? We don't want to get down the road and then have somebody we didn't know who has authority to say, no, we can't.
Yeah, that almost feels
we need
like
a definitive answer, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would, yeah. I know that's really we're really frustrated with how the state is dealing with this too, because it's not a definitive answer. You know,
Okay, hey, Pat, right now the governor has it at a high level. So
yes,
at a high level, right now, is this acceptable by Angela to meet that first question bullet there? Pre-approval by OSU.
Yeah. And then, because the guidelines really are from Oregon Health Authority. And then, so the state 4-H leader has, and the director of extension has assigned the regional directors for their regions to be responsible for their region. And every region did different that way too. But yeah, once the decision's made, you know, unless, you know, if it's supposed to make a decision that we have the processes all in play by July 1st, and there's a major infection issue, whatever it is, well, things are going to change. And just like biosecurity, things would change too. So we have to do the best we can with the information we have. That's why so many times we say, this is what we know now.
So Pat, my question is who is submitting the form to OSU for that approval for 4-H in Washington County to participate in the Washington County Fair?
It would have to be from you probably, so that it's a pretty simple form, but they just want to make sure the process is, so like the fencing or something to keep the public away.
So is that
would
on
be-
the, is that on the form?
Well, no, there's a description there. How are you going to meet these criteria? So
Okay.
we can show you the form. So
Okay.
And
Yeah, because there's nothing on there that we can't do.
no, that's perfect. That's what that's what we want to hear too. So basically, OSU tells us, and Oregon Health Authority, that they're managing risk, and we're all managing risk, and no one wants to take all the risk. So how do we do that? And everybody has their own criteria. But with us, it's the criteria is the mothership is the Oregon Health Authority that impacts what OSU is doing in enrichment programs. Yeah. And so Darcy and I and Alice will meet with Leah every month. We'll work out those criteria and make sure it's all set. So the main thing is just really good communication and know who's doing what, where, when. Other questions? Those are good questions.
Well, yeah, I think, and Catherine Chair Harrington sent me a question, and I want to make sure that I understand what it is, so bear with me a little bit. But we are at, as you've identified, high risk right now. And we anticipate that as we get closer to, obviously, summer, we'd like to certainly have that drop down to the next level at least. And so are we anticipating that if we do drop down to that risk level, there's going to be a change in some of the regulations here? She's asking the FDA may allow kids 12 years and older to be have the vaccination. And could we make sure that if that is allowed, that we have that available to them? I mean, so if these kids all have their vaccinations, does that change the game rules a little bit? And we might be able to facilitate doing something like that, I guess, for these kids. So how does that all come into play as we move ahead towards Fair Day?
I wish I knew, Jerry. The criteria keeps changing all the time. Right, if we were to do this in this snapshot view right now, whether Washington County was in low, moderate, high, or extreme, we could still be there. We would still follow those same criteria on the first slide, and we could be there and participate. But other rules and things come up that change the dynamics. We just can't predict. So what we know now is that yes, we can have groups out there doing things under the criteria we have.
Okay, so we're going to basically make any decisions and request approval based on what we know today and meet that criteria. And then if the criteria is easier to meet as we get into July, then we'll certainly adapt to that. But yeah, that would be the best scenario. So okay.
Yeah.
So
and things
we'll
will
move ahead.
get worse. We're not predicting things will get worse. And that we can't, no one has the crystal ball to decide that. But if things get more flexible, great too. That's good.
And here's your last slide, Pat.
Yeah. We put together on the left there for 2019. I think that's a long time ago. And the numbers of kids who participated in fair at the fairgrounds. And so the top ones there, and then the market animals below. As of today, this is what we know now of kids who can participate in fair at the fairgrounds. And then horse, if it was to happen right now, they have 25 kids at are able to participate or will participate.
So Pat, when you say able to participate, does that mean that that's the number of people that have signed up to participate for fair?
They have enrolled in 4-H. Yeah.
Okay.
We
So
won't
those are the ones
know.
eligible.
Yeah, well, they're eligible. Yeah, we won't know what the exact numbers are until June 15th, and that's usually the deadline when kids sign up for fair. And so that's why to be determined. Like sheep and goat weigh-in is this weekend, and so we just don't know what that is yet. And
Right. But
our
so far your enrollment is way down.
Oh yeah, and I mentioned that last time. Our enrollment's way down, and usually for all 4-H across the county in a typical year is about, at this time of year, we'd have about 1,500 kids in 4-H. Right now we have about 254, I think, or 256. So it's way down because everything's remote, and the kids who are involved with 4-H now really want to participate and be involved in a face-to-face program. We have the option of doing virtual programming. They would much rather not do that. So the numbers aren't big by any means. And then we've been talking with Leah too. July is usually traditional fair month, and so we have been getting information on different groups scheduling different times throughout the month to participate too. That works well with their schedule. So, and we don't have that calendar yet. We're still developing that. So.
Okay, Leah, based on Pat's presentation, I take it we're probably, because we can meet all those bullet points that he had, depending that we stay in high or lower. I would assume that we're probably still in the position to continue where we're going with option number 4.
Yes, absolutely. So all of those items that were in Pat's bullets are easily doable. And I've talked to Pat and Darcy and Alice at the 4-H office. And then internally, Albert and I have been working on what that would look like, having a fenced in area that the kids can, bring their animals into the fairgrounds, wash their animals, and then get them into the show ring where they wouldn't have contact with the public, but then still allow public viewing from like the opposite side of the show ring because there's fencing there, and keep the bleachers back. And so they can still watch the kids do their showing, but they wouldn't have access to close contact with the kids whatsoever.
Okay. And the kids are still going to be taking the animals in during the morning and out at night?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So, when you're talking like 9 dairy goats, that won't take long. So I don't know if it's in the morning and out at night. I mean, it could be a couple hours. So, that there might not be very long shows, but there will be shows for the public to watch.
Perfect.
Yeah,
From a
the numbers,
distance. Yeah.
From a distance.
the numbers are actually disappointing, but the silver lining, I think, is that it'll be a lot easier to manage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you think about even like biosecurity too. If we keep the public on, say, on the north side, whatever that is,
Yep.
whatever that means, and the kids and the animals on the south side, the biosecurity is much easier to manage because we just can't have people wandering through.
Yeah.
And that it just destroys the tracking and tracing objective.
Yeah, and we can keep the public on the north and east sides, and we can keep the kids and the animals on the south and the west sides.
Mhm.
It's just, it's actually just a little bit of fencing. It's not bad at all. Uh-oh, did we just lose somebody?
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Pat.
Yeah, no, and the other issue we have, we only have 2 show rings really, the north and south show ring, and possibly the auction ring if it's large enough, or if it's fenced, that type of thing. But that's it, because so we're trying to schedule different days for people to fit in those to still do their events, because it still takes some time to set up and move. And then we've talked with Leah about using the new exhibit hall for the Hearth program on Saturday, the 17th, whatever that is. I kind of forget the date there. And to be able to move in and out there, would be, the Cloverleaf just doesn't have the ventilation that is required.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that would be a day that the kids would bring their entries in to be judged.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we'll use the expo hall for that. It's got better ventilation and more ability for physical distancing.
Yeah. And then the market animals, so much of that is coordinated with the auction committee and how that works and what's going to be best for them. We tell all our groups too that for parents and kids and animals, you need to make sure you feel safe, and because it's up to them. And so it's all fairs are that way. It's all up to the parents to make sure the kids can participate. Same thing with this year too. And so that's part of the reason numbers are down. It's just there's a anxiety of crowds yet too.
Okay. One other
So-
thing, do we know if this is going to be a terminal fair for these animals or?
Only the market animals, Gary.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing is we've been working with the auction and they're kind of waiting to hear what rules are going to be in place for 4-H. So these are all very doable, I think, from a auction standpoint. So we always have to fence off the auction ring, move the bleachers to the outside instead of the inside for the buyers to actually be able to bid on the animals. The kids will be on one side of the fence and the people that want to buy their animals will be on the other side of the fence. And it'll be a hybrid show. So they're going to do it virtual and in person.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's easy to bring in, cavies and rabbits and poultry, hearth exhibits. It's much more difficult to bring in, swine and beef. So that's a decision they have to make too. What's going to be the healthiest for their animals also, and how to do that, what that means. There is a weigh-in this weekend for sheep and goats. So we'll get more information then.
All right, does anybody have any more questions about 4-H? And then we can just jump right into county fair. All right, moving right along.
Thanks, Pat.
Mhm.
Yes, thanks, Pat. So like Pat said, the Oregon Health Authority guidance is changing daily, very regularly. I mean, we thought we were all going to extreme this week, and now we're not going to extreme. We're staying in high. So things change. We did get some updated guidance for outdoor events this last week and indoor events, and some of those restrictions and requirements are loosening. For example, previously the requirement where it was required that we had one-way traffic. It was required that entrances and exits were, within so many feet of each other. It was required that people had to make reservations in advance to attend the event. And those requirements are gone. They are encouraging that people utilize those to some degree, but they are no longer required. The requirements are pretty simple at this point. It's masks, physical distancing, enforcement of the capacity. So whether it's 15, 25, or 50%, depending on the risk level that we're in, having capacity monitors and ensuring sanitization. Other than that, there's no requirements anymore. Well, and then we have to have signage, signage about symptoms, signage about wearing masks, signage about physical distancing. And other than that, everything else is just encouraged, not required. So Jerry, you're muted.
That's a good thing.
You may not be talking to us, I don't know. So again, those restrictions and requirements are loosening. They may change again before the fair. So, and then we've all heard that the governor claimed just recently that we may have those restrictions removed by June 30th, depending on the metrics at that time. So, but a lot of that is who knows, like, Pat said, this is what we know today. So we know that the guidance has changed. We have less restrictions that we have to enforce, and the common sense ones that we still have to enforce are easily doable. So what does that mean for the fair? Whatever the OHA requirements are for capacity and operations at that time is what we will do. The only difference would be if for some reason we end up back in extreme, we would have to cancel, because extreme is 100 people allowed on the property total. Obviously that doesn't work. Hopefully we'll be in low and we can be at 50% capacity, but even at moderate, at 25% capacity, that is still a very doable fair number. Again, 4-H and FFA in-person livestock shows, if possible, which, after this information that we got from Pat today, it is possible, but limitations are obviously likely because of the number of kids that have enrolled or may choose to participate or not participate. Again, hybrid and in-person and virtual livestock auction. We're going to explore adding back some of those traditional fair activities if feasible, like commercial vendors, entertainment, and some home arts competitions and displays. Non-food, we wouldn't want people to bring in food to be judged. That would not be something that our public health would allow. We do have some production issues. We only have 5 staff members. However, we are talking to some contractors and some partners that would help us bolster our staffing and bolster contracting. We don't even have a contracting employee anymore. Our carnival and our food vendors have come forward and asked if we would partner with them. They would help take on some of our expenses if they could help share in the revenue. So I'm looking at some proposals from them. They feel like they want to help us take the burden of the risk, which is amazing. They just want a fair and they want to have food and they want to have entertainment. And so they're willing to assist us with staffing and fronting some of the expenditure money and helping pay for advertising costs. So those are some things that I'm going to be looking at. So I know I told you a month ago I was going to bring you a budget for this fair, and I'm not. So, because I'm still not there. I wish. It's just everything changes so much and so fast, almost on a daily basis, that I put a budget together and it's completely blown out of the water, almost the minute that I think I'm done with it. So I promise you will have one for the next meeting in June, because we will be, just a little over 30 days out from us starting to set the fair up at that point. But we are going to lean heavily on using contract and temporary help to get us through this. Like I said, with 5 staff people, that is not doable at all. However, and some of you remember Don Hillman who used to do my job at the fairgrounds. Don is going to come out of retirement and he's going to do some contract work for us. He's going to help us do some of these jobs that we would normally have staffing for. And he's affordable and we only have to employ him for, 60 days. And he works pretty cheap. So Katie Cannon, who's the former manager of the Oregon State Fair, met with her today. She wants to help. She said she'll help manage garbage and janitorial and that kind of thing. So the good news is we've got some partners out there that know how to operate fairs, and we can contract with them or do temporary staffing with them and bolster our staffing that we don't currently have, and not really take on those. We can't afford to bring our FTEs back. We could bring them back temporarily, but then they would just have to be redeployed again, because once the fair is over, we just don't have the work for them to still do, which is why I'm going to lean heavily on these contract services. Any questions? Because that's it. That's the end of my fair update. We're having a fair. We're having a fair. It's going to be 10 days. We're having a carnival. We've got food. We've got some entertainment, and we've got some assistance via contractors and temporary staff, and we're going to make it happen.
Actually, I do have a question. Could you take that last slide and make it something that that I could distribute to the public? I have certain connections, like to Farm Bureau, for example, where I have to report some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And just dress it up for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. I can send that to you tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any questions, any concerns, anything? Otherwise, we're just going to keep moving forward.
Okay, Leah, I would take it part of that 5 staff. Do we get Carol and Julie back?
We've got Carol for 1 day a week, and no, not really no, we can't. Julie's working over in housing, and we can't bring her back just to then send her back to housing, 60 days later. So we're going to work on some contracting. Carol, it's hard to say, she's working 8 hours a week for us now. Once we start, getting some of these payments in, we might need to bump Carol's hours back up. I would need to talk to, she's working in finance as well. So we might be able to have an opportunity to, you know, be flexible with Carol's time, but we'll work on that. So,
Okay,
and Will Culver, our former contract person, he took another job. So we don't have a contract person right now, but we are working directly with our purchasing department, and Will is still helping us a little bit from his new assignment. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
okay. Is Volstead going to be a security contractor?
Yes, Steve Volstead will be returning as our head of security. He's going to be a key piece as well. I'm meeting with the sheriff's department next week. They're ready to support us as well. So, you know, we normally use quite a few contractors for the fair anyway, and but all those contractors that we're bringing in, we're going to have them do a little bit of double duty. So Steve Volstead is going to do head of security, but he's also going to be helping with parking and some other things. And then the guy that we use for parking, he's going to help with some other things as well. Everybody's going to be doing more than one job this year,
Okay,
including you guys.
perfect. Hey, we have a question that came up, Leah, and you can answer that. The fair
Okay, hold
dates,
on.
at least till July 23rd through the 1st of August.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Yeah, and so Lisa has updated our website with the information on the dates of the fair, and that we'll be following OHA guidelines for whatever they are at that time, and that more information will be forthcoming. So I know that our community will be excited to hear that. So, and she's going to start working on social media campaigns and things as well.
excellent, good. Do we have any update for the CAO? Because I see
So-
that Leah or Sia's on.
Yep, Sia is on, and she can give us a county administrative update. Hi, Sia.
Hello, everyone. It's really good to see you. I was here mostly to hear the update on the county fair and hear some of the decisions you made. So I really don't have an update from the county administrative office. I think Leah's done a really nice job of updating you all on the status out at the fair complex. So, and I know Commissioner Willie, you're on top of things as well. So if you have any questions for me, though, I'm happy to answer them.
And Chair Harrington is on as well. And if Chair, you would like to, I'll unmute you so you can talk if you'd like.
Commissioner Willie is our Fair Board rep, so I'm 100% comfortable with him providing you all the updates.
Thank you. Anything else, Sia?
Nothing unless folks have questions for me. It's always good to see everyone.
Well, I think this is going to be a record meeting. So that is it.
We'll
So
go
it's-
to oral communication 2.
Yep.
This is the time when any members of the audience may address this board. Opportunity is limited to, actually it's 5 minutes, isn't it? Yeah, 5 minutes. 2 minutes is wrong. 5 minutes per individual. Maximum time for this communication period is 30 minutes, as it states. And since nobody spoke at the first one, anybody can speak at this
Yep,
one.
we've got Jan Har is wanting to talk, and I'm trying to figure out how to. Go ahead, Jan, are you? think-
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. When you were talking about the financials and you had mentioned that the maintenance part of it, that you're basically doing the maintenance, does that still include the $25,000 to complete the horse arena?
Yeah, the horse arena is actually complete. The only thing that's left is to put the final footing in.
Okay, and do we have any idea when that will be completed, or it's, because
Yeah,
it's been fairly dry.
yeah, the final footing is going in here in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting on Baker Rock, who's doing the mix for us.
Okay, and then the horse, I just want to say we have about 50 kids registered for horse, but only about half of them have decided that they would like to participate in an in-person fair if we can do that. That's what we're planning to do. One of the big concerns is that with our livestock and also all of other livestock is that there are no stalls and there is no safe place to put an animal that is a flight risk. And so it does drop our numbers a lot because parents are concerned about having to tie a horse to a trailer as long as it's in a secure place, a fenced area. That is a huge concern to parents and to the kids who own the horses. And so that's why I believe numbers are going to be down, is because there is no safe place to house the animals before they are actually taken into the show ring. We're still going to try it, and we're working forward with it. We do have hired a judge, and we're hiring another judge. So we're in the planning process, but I just wanted to let the Fair Board know that that is a huge concern and a huge safety issue that the parents have expressed and the leaders have expressed.
So Jen, that whole area is fenced.
Which is correct, but not all horses, as you know, you've been around horses, can tie to a trailer. There's no shade, and we're talking in late July when we have given you the dates that we would like to do it. And so that is a concern, and it's a concern with swine, it's a concern with beef. And so those numbers may not show up, or the numbers may be drastically down because of that.
So, well, maybe Pat can help us with this question. So we were operating previously on the assumption that 4-H kids could not be in the barns at all. It looks like in these guidelines, the kids can be in the barns as long as the public is not in the barns with them. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes, I think that has changed. Before there was confinement issues with barns, but that doesn't seem to exist anymore.
Yeah,
And
with that
so-
latest update. So we could
Yeah.
technically set up stalls in the barns to be used by the animals as long as the public doesn't go in them. Because before they weren't allowed in the kids weren't allowed in buildings, but now they could, it looks like, with the guidance update.
Yeah, there still be 6-foot social distancing, masks, all the same things. But yeah, that might be a game changer there too.
Yeah. So don't give up on us yet, Jan.
Oh, no, I'm not giving up. No, we're planning on having an in-person horse fair. Whether we've got, 10 kids or 25 or 30 kids, we still really want to be there.
Okay, well, I think, we can certainly, setting up panels or stalls for, that many kids is really a lot more doable. And same thing for pigs.
Okay, that really is a game changer for us, that I can pass that on to our leaders. And
Okay.
so that is huge. Thank
Good.
you.
Absolutely. And, call anytime and we can come up with a plan. You can stop by and we'll figure it out.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Kind of carry that forward. Actually, tonight we have a meeting with our 4-H general people. We're going to share what we came from this. I'll mention that tonight. And next Wednesday, we have a meeting with the superintendents. So that'd be a good opportunity to bring it up more too.
Yeah, when is that meeting, Pat? I'll try to attend.
The 6:30.
What day?
Oh, the 12th.
Yeah, I can attend if you'd like me to.
Yeah, we'll look at the agenda. We'll get in touch and see. But yeah, that'd be great. The idea of that is just really good communication, and sharing this with them would be very helpful too. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, any other public comment? I don't see any hands. Anything in the Q&A? No. Okay.
Wow, this is a record.
I know, right?
Yeah, then with that, next meeting, June 2nd, 4:30 to 6. I take it it'll be on Zoom unless we get an all clear to come on back to a face-to-face meeting.
Yep. So, everybody wear their masks and get vaccinated, and then hopefully we can meet in person in June 2nd.
Woo-hoo.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. Have a
With
good
that,
night.
we are done.
Enjoy the weather. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.